on Fridays. I'm Al McCauley, and today I want to talk to you about my second favorite saint of all time. I mentioned quite a few times in episodes, if you've watched past episodes, about how much I love St. Teresa of Lisieux, that she's my favorite. Here's her icon right there. I got it from a good friend of mine named Brian. But today I want to talk about saint would be number 1B. Right behind her is this guy. That's a picture of Saint Augustine of Hippo. I got that one from a friend of mine, a fellow parishioner named Mark Reel, and I want to thank him for that and dedicate this episode to you, Mark, because I love Saint Augustine. In fact, Mark became aware of my love of Saint Augustine because we had like an informal book club at our parish several years ago, where we looked at the Confessions, his autobiography, Augustine's autobiography. But anyway, let's talk about this great saint. One of the most influential, one of the greatest thinkers of our whole church history, of 2,000 years of church history. Every August 28th, we remember this great man, Augustine of Hippo. And I'm not going to go into great detail about his life. I have done an episode where I combine Augustine and Monica, his mother, together. You can check that in the archives, and I can go into greater detail about his life. But I want to focus on just Augustine through this one painting. Like the one Mark gave me, this image is just beautiful. And I want to talk about it because it's just filled with symbolism, and it gives us a good indication as to what was his life like. Some overarching themes, if you will. And the first thing you'll notice about this image, this painting, is that he's dressed in the full bishop's regalia. Because although he was a sinful youth, even into his adulthood, he eventually is going to be baptized. He will become a priest and then a bishop of Hippo, a city in northern Africa, which was a very strong Christian place at that time in the 4th century. Just by way of context, he lived from 354 to 430 AD. That's when we're talking about Augustine's life. So about 1600 years ago. But you'll notice he was a bishop, and so you see the bishop regalia, the finery that he has. What's fascinating too about this painting is at the bottom you will see his feet. He's stepping on books and scrolls, and that indicates those heretics, those false teachers that he would refute, either in person or through the written word, that he refuted any challenges they would have to Christianity. For instance, you see the word Pelagius there in one of those tomes, one of those books under his feet. Pelagius was this guy who believed that we are saved by our own works, not by God's grace. And so Augustine refuted him successfully, I would say. And so it's just the artist's way of showing to us that he was not just smart, but he was smart enough to refute these other really good thinkers. What I want to focus on really for the rest of this episode is what you see in the top third of this painting. You see Augustine is an older man, and he's going to look back. When he's about 40, he's going to write his autobiography, which is again called the Confessions. So he's remembering what his life was like. And what you see is these two opposing forces in the top third of this painting. You see him holding his heart that's outside of his body, and it's on fire. And it's supposed to represent the passions that really plagued his life. And if you don't know anything about Augustine, I'll say this much. He by his own admission, was plagued by a lot of things. He lied, he stole, he was not the best son. But the thing that plagued him his whole life was lust. That he gave into this physical pleasure a lot, even to the extent where he had a son out of wedlock when he was 17. He gave into this over and over again. It was hard for him to overcome this passion. And so you see in this painting him holding the heart that's on fire, and the flames are almost like drawing his head like a tractor beam, trying to draw his attention back to those earthly pleasures. But in his older age, he's looking to his right, up at the light that's coming from heaven. And the word on that light, the artist has written the word in Latin veritas, which means truth. And it's this age-old human struggle. I've had it, you have it, no matter what it is. For him, it was lust. For others, it might be procrastination. It might be lying. It might be ego. It might be pride. You name it. Any number of possible sins. And isn't that the truth? That we struggle between the heart that we're holding, the passions that we have, and that desire to want to be with God, like God. We want to be spiritually pure. And this is that human struggle between the spirit and the flesh was something that Augustine not only knew very well, but he wrote about eloquently. I've said it before, it's not an easy book to read, but the Confessions should be mandatory reading for every Christian, I think, because it just gives a good life lesson as to how to overcome that, how to deal with that tension between the flesh and the spirit. I guess if I had to summarize it, I would summarize it saying this. Ultimately, Augustine is saying those passions that we're drawn to in this world, that we think will make us happy, but happiness is fleeting. You know, if I have a new book, if I have a new car, if I have a new house, at some point I'll want something more, or I want to add to it. If I have anything that I surround myself with in a material way is never going to be good enough. I'm always going to need to replace it. It's always going to lead me to want more. It's a very fleeting thing. But to put all my eggs in the God basket, so to speak, if I really am focused on God, all those other things will take care of itself and they'll find their proper context in my life. So instead of wanting happiness, what we humans really seek, according to Augustine, is we're seeking meaning and purpose in our life. And if God is the meaning and purpose of our life, if that's the truth of our life, all the other stuff either doesn't matter or it doesn't matter nearly as much. And then we can focus on what truly is our priority. If that's how I would summarize it, Augustine was much pithier than I am. He's much more brilliant than I am by far. And he summarized it in one sentence in his Confessions. And it's a very, very well quoted line by Augustine. He said, "You have made us for yourselves, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." And here he is holding his restless heart. And he's finally looking in his older age up to the what really will give him meaning, that veritas, that truth. That's what our hearts will rest in. Our hearts are going to be restless until we decide to turn to God. And he's called the Doctor of Grace. He's a doctor of the church, which is one of 37 men and women throughout history. Of all the thousands of saints that we've had, only 37 men and women who are the preeminent teachers of the faith. And his nickname is the Doctor of Grace because he is the guy who realizes that in order for us to turn away from these earthly passions to himself, we have to rely on and cooperate or work with God's grace, God's presence, his freely given presence to us. Nothing we earn, nothing we deserve, but it's given to us continually out of his love for us. And if we just react to that, if we can cooperate with it, we can overcome any obsession or even any addiction that we might have so that our hearts truly can rest in God. So there you go. St. Augustine, great saint, great painting, great guy to know and to emulate. Hope you found this helpful. We'd love it if you would want to share this content with somebody else. That would be great. We'd love it also if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on Facebook. But either way, we hope you tune in every Friday for Fish on Fridays. Until next time, please be good to each other and God bless.